Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Dan Martellotti, Senior Director of Product Management here at SailPoint, and today we're going to explore how organizations like yours can navigate the increasingly complex world of identity security and compliance. We'll share insights, challenges, and how SailPoint is helping regulated industries thrive with stronger governance and better outcomes. Let's set the stage. Identity is the prime target. 90% of organizations have experienced an identity-related breach. At the same time, regulatory pressure is mounting. From GDPR and HIPAA to SOX and NIST, organizations may be required to prove they control access at all times, across all users, data, and applications. Compliance is imperative. Still, we know the reality. Compliance is complex. Manual audits, siloed systems, access sprawl. Teams are drowning in certifications and scrambling during audits. The challenge? Balancing control and agility without slowing down the business or burning out your teams. Here's where SailPoint comes in. We help organizations simplify identity governance with intelligence, automation, and visibility. Our SailPoint Atlas platform centralizes identity controls, helps ensure policy enforcement, and delivers insights to help you proactively meet regulatory requirements without the constant firefighting. Whether it's automating provisioning, detecting risky access, or producing audit-ready reports, we empower your teams to govern access confidently and consistently. Take certifications, a common compliance pain point. With SailPoint certifications, become risk-driven and AI-informed. Instead of reviewing everything, you focus on what matters: outliers, over-entitled users, and policy violations. SailPoint helps automate policy checks, role mining, and access reviews, so you reduce human error and increase audit readiness. SailPoint is trusted by some of the most regulated industries: finance, healthcare, and government. This isn't just about technology. It's about assisting with real compliance outcomes, faster audits, fewer findings, and stronger security. Where are you in your access compliance journey? Maybe you're still in reactive mode, manually certifying users. Or maybe you're moving toward proactive, risk-based governance. Wherever you are, SailPoint helps you move up that maturity curve, making compliance continuous, consistent, and built into your business processes. Now that we've laid the foundation, it's time to hear from the real experts, you. We'll talk to some of our customers about how they're approaching identity access, compliance, what's working for them, and where their opportunities still exist. We want to explore not just tools, but strategy, alignment, and impact. So here's where we're going next. Our customers will share their perspective across 4 key areas. First, the top pain points and compliance challenges that they're navigating. Second, how identity security and compliance are prioritized in executive strategy. Third, a snapshot of their current program maturity and what frameworks they align to. And finally, how they're planning for the future in this ever-evolving landscape.
Thanks, Dan. Great presentation. My name is James Honey, Director of Product Marketing here at SailPoint. And joining me today is Rick Lane, Manager, Identity and Access Management with Mainline Health. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of get into it. We're going to talk about your journey around navigating compliance and identity security and your strategies for a regulated world. So what are some of your top compliance-related concerns?
Yeah, so I think for us at Mainline, the compliance was it began being centered around Epic and Epic findings, how we were recertifying users who had access to Epic. We needed to change that, and that's not only was it a concern pre-SailPoint, it's a concern today. So how we're recertifying the access that our users have is a concern.
Awesome. So you talked about it's such a concern, but how do you manage these trade-offs between your access controls, compliance, a lot of times, and operational agility?
the customer, we need to make sure that people have the access that they need to do their job. A lot of that comes from tools like SailPoint, where we can automate that access and base it off of roles. But we also have to be careful. We are the governance owners of that access, and we want to be someone who's not reacting but more proactive and getting in front of these things. I think that's where we, as the identity and access managers at Mainline Health, have to balance. Are we getting that access to the right people at the right time to do their jobs? And then we also have to use partners at Mainline, our managers and our compliance and legal teams, to make sure that we're not over provisioning or giving access when users shouldn't have it.
Yeah. And so in your view, what's the most time-consuming or costly part of maintaining this identity compliance that you guys are working with today?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the toughest part, right, is a lot of the manual efforts and the findings. Like I said, if there are findings and we're chasing them down, that takes time. And it's whether we're pulling reports or trying to figure out what access is correct or not. Those are things we're trying to move away from. And I think that foundation of a tool like SailPoint has helped, but really, for us, it's a matter of getting in front of, not reacting to compliance, but more getting in front of it and leading it and being a partner there instead of always chasing things down.
Yeah. And you call out some big parts, being a partner in that process and everything else instead of chasing things down. So with that, how are you prioritizing your identity security and compliance initiatives within the broader security strategy that I'm sure your organization has?
Sure. I think it's all about communication, really establishing that early on. We brought our compliance and our legal team in on, our development for SailPoint before we were live with it. We knew we had these issues and these compliance concerns. And so we brought them in early. And I think that communication and using them strategically for how we built our identity management program at Mainline, and then we continue to work with them now that we're live. We still communicate with them regularly, and they help point us in the right direction. I think sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves and maybe start developing or moving down a path that works for us but may not work for them. So I think that communication, keeping those lines open, has gone a long way for us.
Yeah, that communication is such a key part. So with that, how do you measure the effectiveness or even ROI of your identity compliance initiatives?
So it's really, for us, the ROI is are we meeting what we were not doing before? I think having that, there's a lot to be said for what we can automate and what we can put back on the users, things that we were manually doing before, but really having the ability to audit and see these things in a single system, not having a source of truth like NERM for our non-employees. That's the ROI for us. These were, we can measure it in time, and we used to handle spreadsheets and a lot of manual effort. But I think the real thing is we are not reacting to audits and findings. We're more proactive and being more of a leader in that space. And I think that's a big win for Mainline.
Yeah. And definitely not managing it through spreadsheets. That's always a big win right there. So with that understanding, we're talking about how do you measure, how would you assess your current level of maturity in this journey?
Yeah. So I think we're still early on. We haven't even been live for a year yet at Mainline. So we've got a ways to go. The building the foundation, having the tools in place has gone a long way, but then changing a mindset from our team where we're from reactionary to anticipating has helped us in our development space. So our team knows that when we're developing, we have to have these things in mind. We can't bring on new applications. We can't allow things to happen where we're not part of it. And I think being at the table and being part of the conversation, we know my team knows what compliance and legal is going to ask. So while they can't be at every meeting, and we are the IT people, we're at the table now. I think Mainline has realized that we have to have a space there, and that we can voice those concerns, so that when we're developing these things, we're doing that in mind with what's this going to look like from a compliance standpoint, a legal standpoint, and then, as you said earlier, just from a customer standpoint of, we're bringing in this cool new software, and what can we do with it? But
Right.
are we being careful with it, and are we doing with it what we need to do from an IAM standpoint?
Yeah. And so with that, what are some of the frameworks or regulations that do shape your program?
I mean, we work in healthcare, right? So I think we've got patient data that can, people can access that if we do the wrong thing. We've got mobile devices. We've got so many different scenarios that can happen in healthcare that I think we have to be careful on the front end. But then we talked earlier about, our non-employee management, and it's a space that, my team now owns. We are the source of truth for non-employees at Mainline, and we are teaching facilities, so we have students and we have residents and medical students. So those, making sure that those people have the access, the timely access they need, but then really just making sure we have our heads around the amount of access they need. I think that's where we don't want any surprises in the future. We want to make sure that anything that comes back to us, we already know that, hey, this is out there. And we're not perfect. We know we have to make changes, but then being flexible enough to pivot and adapt to that, I think, is what my team is really focusing on now.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of pivot on the last few questions with you, Rick, and kind of start thinking about the future, because obviously you're always thinking about the future. So what is your roadmap? Because I'm sure you have an internal roadmap. What does that look like over the next year, 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different paths we can go right now, and the easy answer, right, is to automate as much as possible. I mean, we haven't gotten there yet. I mean, we've got a long way to go with it, but I don't think that's the answer for us. I think the answer for us is to move more from automating more to anticipating, and I think anticipating what the user needs are, and we've had some challenges with passwords, right? And how we're resetting passwords, and for a user who's on the other side of the world, and how do we protect that information and not, make sure that we're verifying who users are, and are there options there to get away from using passwords? What's going to be out there? I think that, along with maybe some machine, right now we're just heartbeat accounts, maybe moving towards what else can we manage? What else can we use SailPoint for, and leverage that going forward? I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg for Mainline. I think we have so many different things that we can, address, that it's exciting, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. So one thing I've loved talking to you, and I hear some key points, but I want to kind of get your thoughts around what would excellence look like for you in your identity compliance in your organization. I do hear being proactive is a big one, but what would excellence look like for you guys?
I mean, excellence for us is really balancing so we have our toes in a lot of different, parts of the business at Mainline, but excellence really is, we can't afford to slip up. Obviously, we have our enterprise security piece of this, right? I mean, we can't afford to let identities become compromised. We've got to be vigilant there. But I also think it's about not having findings that, like I said earlier, that are surprising, that are like, wow, we've got these gaps, and how did this happen? I think for me, it's being in front of all that. And I think that starts with the respect that we have for our business partners in the health system. But then I think we've built a lot of respect with them. And I think having them come to me and not have to go to the top, right? They can come to me and say, hey, we see this issue. Maybe you can partner with us. Maybe you can help us. To me, that's where I want to be. I think that goes a long way to catching things before they become issues. And I'm proud when that happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure on this last one, you could probably go on for a long time. We always look at how can we do better? What are the opportunities to do better? But, kind of what are your main ones? What is our main one around the streamlining or modernization aspect?
Yeah, so the exciting thing, and I know it's the buzzword in the field right now, right, is AI, and how can we leverage AI, and what can we do with AI? I think there's a ton of opportunities there. We haven't even touched the surface. It's even with SailPoint. I know SailPoint has its AI features. We're not even there yet. But what are things we're not even thinking of right now? So it's out in the industry. It's listening to our peers. I think that's a big thing that Mainline's trying to do, is partner with our peers and say, hey, what are you guys seeing? What are some issues compliance-wise or anything else that you guys might be seeing? So there's leveraging our partners and our community, leveraging SailPoint. But then, what other things are out there? Is there opportunities for AI and just new technologies? Things change so fast. Staying current with that, I think, is key for us.
Awesome. Well, Rick, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome. And thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more great content on Identity TV. Thank you. My name is James Honey, Director of Product Marketing here at SailPoint. And joining me today is Mark Van Tegel, Director of Security and Cyber Resilience at Telenet. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's kind of get into the topic around compliance and governance in an identity security world. So first, Mark, tell us a little bit about Telenet.
Yeah. Telenet is a leading telecom and entertainment provider in Belgium. We have strong consumer and B2B brands, and through those we offer fixed and mobile connectivity. So fixed voice, mobile voice, but also data services to the whole customer range. We also offer digital television, and we do that over our own coax and fiber network. Next to that, we own a broadcasting company and several production houses that focus on great local but also international content. And lastly, we also venture into new markets such as energy. Through our brand Blossom, we offer companies a turnkey solution for their electric vehicle fleet charging. We have quite a diverse workforce, ranging from people that put the cables in the ground to office workers, retail shop employees, call center employees, and that diverse workforce is both locally and internationally sourced.
Oh, wow. So a lot of different identities that you're managing every day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what are some of the top compliance-related concerns and reoccurring pain points that you face?
Well, actually, and that's taking me 15 years back, it was compliance, at that time Sarbanes-Oxley, that put us on the identity governance road, let's say. Today, in telecom, especially in Belgium, we face many overlapping regulatory requirements, from GDPR to sector-specific rules like the National Telecom Law. But these days, NIS2, the European Directive for better cyber resilience in the EU companies, is the talk of the town, let's say. Keeping compliant with all of those at the same time is quite a concern, I have to say, as failing compliance can lead to hefty fines. And ensuring we meet all of those regulations without slowing down the business, that's a constant balancing act, I have to say.
So, Mark, how are your identity security and compliance initiatives prioritized within your broader security strategy?
Well, I have to say, in our security strategy, identity security is foundational. As you know, asset management and knowing what you have in order to protect it is the number one control, and the same goes with identities for us. Credential compromise or compromised identities remains a number one entry point for breaches. So mitigating that risk through strong identity controls is a top priority for us. In practice, that means that for any new project, we ensure only the right identities get access and monitor and certify that access continuously. Identity and compliance requirements are baked in from the design phase of our initiatives and systems. They are treated as core strategic security goals, right alongside things like threat intelligence or infrastructure security, for example.
So these initiatives, how do you measure ROI with these initiatives?
Well, as you can gather, measuring ROI in security is a tough job, and a question often left unanswered, I have to say. It typically focuses on risk avoidance as a return, preventing costly incidents or regulatory fines. But we aim to track some metrics like the number of identity or access related incidents. Of course, that's a metric that we want to see as low as possible. We also measure ROI in terms of efficiency gains, both for our end users who have to use the applications, application owners who want to onboard their systems onto the IGA solution, but also compliance processes. With a central identity governance platform, the time spent on prepping for an audit can be heavily reduced. In essence, we measure so not only in pure cost savings, but in what I call risk-adjusted value, fewer incidents, and thus fewer fines and potential losses. And of course, efficient operations, together with the ability to meet regulatory demands without scrambling SWAT teams in the last minute, let's say.
Yeah. So let's kind of pivot and talk about where you're at with your current identity governance and compliance. How would you assess your current level of maturity?
Well, without blowing too much of a horn about the maturity we have at Telenet, we don't want to become a target here for potential attackers. I do think we are quite well on the road towards a well-advanced maturity, let's say. We have solid foundations in place, but of course there's always room to grow and optimize. For sure, for example, we need better visibility into non-human identities like service accounts. That's something many companies, I hear from my peers for sure, struggle with these days. It's about, I have to say, continuously refining and extending those controls to every corner of Telenet's ecosystem, especially, for example, in the OT world, securing 5G networks, with a lot of legacy in the mobile networks is very much a tough job, and extending the modern IGA capabilities to those legacy OT platforms is a stretch from time to time, I have to say.
Yeah. So with that, you kind of mentioned, where you're looking to govern machine accounts and identities. If you can share a little bit, what is your identity compliance roadmap kind of look like over the next 12, 24 months? What are you thinking about?
Well, first of all, I don't think I mentioned this before. We just migrated to SailPoint Identity Security Cloud from our legacy IGA solution. So a lot of work has gone into that, but we've only migrated from an end user perspective, that is. We still, over the next 2 years, need to do all of the technical migrations from the legacy IGA to Identity Security Cloud. And together with that, we have to fully meet the new requirements of the NIS2 law by Q1 27. So overall, the roadmap is about deepening and broadening identity compliance into non-human identities, but also into the broader application landscape and also the OT landscape at Telenet. And of course, making sure that we cover all of the identities in all of the systems, both IT, cloud, OT, 5G. It's quite aggressive, but necessary in a high-stakes environment that we live in, where the compliance bar and threat level are both high.
So, obviously, you've mentioned talking to your peers. Could you share what is one piece of advice you would give a peer while they're going through their identity security journey in a highly regulated environment?
Yeah, sure. First of all, make sure all security topics, including identity and compliance, are understood not to be just IT topics, but make sure the business leaders understand their value in the bigger picture. Strong identity management tackles the number one breach tactic, which is the compromised identity. But also ensure you have the basics solid. Make sure you have individual accounts for everyone within the entire workforce, but also non-human identities, strong authentication in place, and robust processes to review and revoke access promptly. Treat identity security as a continuous journey. It's not a one-off project, and make sure it's aligned with compliance. It's a journey that involves a lot of people, a lot of process, but also the technology, of course. So start with the strong basics, continuously improve, look forward to automation and analytics, and always tie it back into the business mission, which is ensuring resilient and trustworthy services for your customers.
That's such great advice, Mark, and really, really appreciate that. Really appreciate you joining on the show. Thank you so much.
Very happy to be here once again, and have a great show.
Awesome. Thank you to everybody watching, and stay tuned for more.
Hello. Welcome to SailPoint Identity TV. Today it's my pleasure to introduce Joey Teo, who is the head of identity and governance of GXS Bank, a digital bank based in Singapore and a user of SailPoint Identity Security Cloud. Hey, Joey, how are you doing today?
Hey, Chi. Hello. I'm good. Thanks for the invite to this session.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for being here with us today. Let's kick this off.
Yeah.
So, Joey, what are some of the top compliance-related concerns you're facing today?
So GXS is there's a digital bank for those that are not aware. And being in the banking industry, it is a highly regulated one for good reasons such as ensuring that customers' money and data are secured and financial markets operate in a fair and orderly manner. In Singapore, as an example, our financial regulator has spelled out clearly its expectations of financial entities, including digital banks like GXS, around technology risk management. This includes ensuring that all accounts are secured, multi-factor authentication is in place for critical systems, enforcing principles of never alone, segregation of duties, and least privilege, and that financial institutions have in place a user access management process to provision, change, and revoke access rights to information assets, just to name a few.
Okay. And are there any recurring pain points in audit readiness, reporting, or even cross-team alignment?
Yeah, good point. I think in any organizations, this is a very valid point that we always ask ourselves. And in GXS Bank, we are very rigorous in the way we tackle issues when they arise. This includes like taking a bird's eye view of a problem space or a pain point, understanding the intricacies, the root causes, and resulting impact arising from this problem space or any problem space. So my problem solving approach is to always first to acknowledge the problem, right? You have to first acknowledge the problem, recognize that the problem exists, come to terms with it. Second, to understand the problem. Third, to brainstorm solutions. Fourth, then to execute the solutions that is agreed. And fifth, to monitor. Right, and I think the recurring pain point is recurring because of a few reasons, in my view, right? Such as when the problem is not well thought through comprehensively, the solution is not executed as planned or as agreed, or having done that, sometimes it's a problem where a new dimension has been introduced into the problem space that was not thought through or didn't exist during the brainstorming phase, and therefore, when we carry out the problem-solving approach to any pain points, it's always important to reflect, take stock, and self-assess from time to time, so as to ensure that the probability of pain points recurring remains minimal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do you currently manage the trade-off between stringent access controls and operational agility?
To be honest, these are, both are equally important in my view, and both are important aspects of our work for their own respective reasons. And we try to manage this, balancing it by investing in cutting-edge technologies, such as automation, AI, streamlining our processes, and better usage of resources that will make our work more efficient and effective. Because really, it can't be a compromise where I drop operational agility so as to achieve stringent access controls. I guess there's no room for compromise in this case. It has to be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I can't agree more on that. In terms of decision making and executive priorities, I have some questions. How are identity security and compliance initiatives prioritized within your broader identity strategy?
But there are several factors. I think obviously, there's a lot of priorities within our broader security strategy. It's not just, identity security is just one of the main pillars that we always consider. So when we look at the broad view, we'll consider what's our current urgent priorities for the security function as well as the bank. What's our bigger security strategy and which phase are we at now in terms of execution and the overall strategy and maturity, as well as where we are sitting on our roadmap. And the way we prioritize identity security and compliance initiatives is to maintain effective and constant communications for our peers. So I talk to our peers from the technology risk governance space, peers from our security operations center, as well as our senior management, right, to make sure that there is always this constant collaboration and harmonization of efforts so as to achieve the best outcome possible within our respective domains across our broader security strategy.
Right. So when it comes to evaluating a new identity governance or compliance solution, what is non-negotiable to you?
Well, I think when it comes to solving any problem or executing a new initiative such as an identity security governance program, I tend to take a longer view. I mean, of course, getting it work is important, but we have to do it in a sustainable way, right? So apart from speed of deployment, right, I also look at the ease of maintenance, the resiliency that we can build in, so that there is a long pathway for any solution, like for example, the identity access governance platform can sustain its presence and prove its worth to the organization at any point in time.
And how do you measure the effectiveness or ROI of your identity compliance solution?
Yeah, I think so. Measuring the effectiveness of ROI, there are a variety of ways to do this, right? And honestly, if I would just list out the top three or the three that comes to my mind, I think firstly is to be able to give assurance to our customers and regulators, through positive audit results that our bank's identity security program is effective. I think there's this phrase of self-praise is no praise. So getting someone that's independent and look at us independently and to tell us how well are we faring, I think that's non-debatable in a sense, right? Second is a clear increase in productivity of our workforce by reducing the time and complexity, in requesting and getting access to the bank systems. I think from an operational standpoint, that's quite clear, right, in terms of the ROI that we can get. The last measurement is basically, I think if I could sum it up, is measurable reduction in risk exposure, particularly in the risk of unauthorized access to the bank's systems, right? Because that's effectively, what we set ourselves to do as an objective.
Okay. So I think great answers there, and perhaps let us look a little bit into your current state in GXS Bank. How would you assess your current level of maturity in the identity program?
Yeah, this is something that I've tried to, I guess, look into market or looking across like whether or not there are any papers around like measurement of level of maturity, particularly in the space of identity governance and compliance. And interestingly, we chance upon this SailPoint's Horizon, which is essentially a way to measure an organization's maturity in its identity security program. So we took the self-assessment and we were assessed to be at Horizon 3, which essentially meant that we belong to the group of organizations which have digitalized identity management capabilities in place and are able to reduce risk with slightly less than 70% capability coverage across identity types.
Mm-hmm. Are there any frameworks or regulations like, for example, NIST, GDPR, SOX, and so on that shape your identity program the most?
Yeah, a couple of them. So a lot of our policies are we take reference from NIST. For example, it's a cybersecurity framework. We also take very importantly making sure that we comply to requirements from our regulators. So in Singapore, for example, we have the Cyber Hygiene Notice, or what we call in short the FSN and FSMN06, Financial Services and Market Notice 06, and internalize best practices for the nature of our business and operations. Yeah, so we take a lot of reference from all these frameworks and regulations too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right, so let's look a little, look ahead into the future, kind of understanding GXS, outlook and the strategy roadmap of your identity program. How does it look like? How does the roadmap look like in the next 12 to say 24 months for the bank?
Well, so we have come a long way. So since the start of this whole identity and security journey, we have today in place a very robust identity access governance program framework supported by a good stack of technologies. And I guess putting into terms, we have kind of tried to grow the bank in different countries across the region, rather independently, because of various market reasons, and of course regulatory clearance. And really, for the next 12 to 24 months, what we're looking at is, if I could sum it up, is about regionalization and consolidation, right? At this juncture, we are pretty much, I guess we can say, operating in silos. So we are looking at how we can work better with our subsidiaries, namely GX Bank in Malaysia and Superbank, which is another digital bank of us in Indonesia that all of them shares the same parents as GXS, which is Grab and Singtel, and looking at how can we better collaborate and harmonize the efforts that we can do in terms of access governance and cross-entity access models.
Mm-hmm. Are there any upcoming regulations or changes in risk posture that you are preparing for?
I think we are constantly looking at it, and therefore we are constantly focusing on extending our access governance model. Particularly at this current juncture, we're looking at non-user accounts and accesses, especially with these this wave of adoption of AIs, where basically it just means that we are going to look at more non-users accounts and accesses to be granted to these machines. And I think the question is, now that we have a good grip on user accesses, right, even non-employee accesses, can we apply the same level of maturity or achieve the same level of maturity for non-user accounts and accesses?
Mhm, mhm. And what would excellence in identity compliance look like for your organization?
I think I'll keep it short. I think excellence to me means it's measurable, it's automated, it's resilient, and lastly, it's validated.
Wow, I like that. I like that. Yeah. And where do you see opportunities to streamline and modernize your identity program?
Yeah, I think I think we have a good grip in terms of managing identities at the user level. So full-time employees, contractors, vendors, we have a good grip on that through our years of investments and hard work. And so really at this juncture, in terms of streamlining and modernizing our identity governance approach, is really to extend the same excellent results that we have for our user access governance to non-users related accounts and accesses. I think that's our priority on top of birth of regionalization as well as consolidation.
All right, good. Joey, thank you so much for the excellent insights on the bank's compliance journey and the roadmap. I'm so glad to hear that identity security is strengthening security posture and helping you achieve compliance excellence in the bank. So congratulations here. And thank you once again for your time and joining us in Identity TV. And you have a good day.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what great examples of how we're using SailPoint to solve compliance problems. I really love hearing from our customers when they talk about how they're using our software to solve real business problems. And I can't wait for you to hear what's next.